All right, so on this episode of Super Progressive, we are joined by D-Nox. Now, D-Nox is an absolute machine. It's one of the most consistent producers in our underground progressive scene. And for me, it's been such a joy being introduced to his music. Two things stand out. First, his collaboration track with Stereo Underground called Spacefly was one of my favorite tracks of this summer. But then also, on top of that, his set at Balance Croatia absolutely blew me away. So while he's been doing this for, I don't know, 25, 30, 35 years now, we talk about it in the episode. Just recently, he's come on to my radar, and I'm a huge fan. So it was a huge honor to have him on the podcast. We jump right into the episode right away, no intro or any of that. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks a lot, D-Nox, for joining.
I'm like so stoked to actually meet you face to face over Zoom because I'm such a fan of your music. And two things for me, so just about me. I have this podcast, Super Progressive. I'm really new to this music. I only discovered this stuff like 4 years ago. My cousin is a producer, and he used to be really in the progressive underground scene. His name's Ned Shepard. And he produces with Sultan. So they really used to make they were really a part of this scene. And then they went a more commercial route, and now they're kind of somewhere in the middle. But he gifted me his old Global Underground compilations like 4 years ago. I got really into the history of this music. And then I've been kind of catching up to the present. And now I feel like I've learned everything, not everything. I've learned a lot, and I've kind of got caught up to the present. And it was this past spring and this past summer, two things happened that really made me a huge fan of you. And I know I'm super late to the party, but your track with Stereo Underground, Spacefly, sick. Like, just sick track. And then your Balance set, bro. And I was just like, damn, I'm such a fan of Sprout. When I see the Sprout promos come, I am like, download no matter what. And I really appreciate with Sprout, like your aspects of the way you balance melody with groove and rhythm. Like, I just think it's so consistent. It sounds obvious that those two things together, but I think, Sprout releases are more consistent with that than any other label. And that's my favorite sound. And yeah, I'm just I've become such a fan of you. So I'm just super stoked to, have you on the podcast.
Wow. The pleasure is all mine. I've gotten your work also since Balance Festival, actually, your coverage over 3 days. And I was like, wow, there's someone who really loves what we do, who is really into it, and who is willing to travel far into film, to go around, make interviews, and load it to his channel, and to make the whole thing glued together. What we saw actually at Balance Festival this year was how can I say? I mean, I'm doing this since 34 years.
Right.
And I come from Germany, and we never really had a progressive house scene in Germany. Germany is all made around techno from Berlin and Frankfurt, from DJs such as Van Welt or such, and there was always something missing for me in Germany in the sound, that the sound was too cold, too hard, too fast, or too commercial. And this thing that I always was missing, I found actually in that sound of that we call progressive house. So since then, I'm trying to play that kind of sound, but not really 100% the way maybe Hernan does or those big players, because I can't hide my German history. I can't hide 34 years of being influenced from various styles and genres, working with different producers such as Beckers or Stereo Underground. And I never really found a home for my sound, apart from maybe playing in Argentina, maybe here and there in Israel. I never really felt there was a bigger thing behind that. And this year we came to Croatia. Nobody really knew what was to be expected, apart from a great lineup. But that virgin energy that everyone brought into that festival, you, me, all the other DJs, but also all the other dancers and the ravers that came together, made that. Man, I can't. Look. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
I'm literally having goosebumps just talking about the festival, and I felt like for the first time that we actually have a home for the music that we love and that we believe in for so long, and then these connections that we are making nowadays, you and me sitting here talking now, and me being on the dance floor for 3 days listening to all the DJs that I never really had a chance of to listen to, apart from maybe half an hour here or hands over in some rave or in some event. And I got, it made me so happy, and it charged my battery, and it put me into the right place.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you could never have predicted on paper about Balance is that everyone was on the same level.
Completely.
From the DJs to the clubbers to the staff. It's like everyone was seeing eye to eye. And I think that is one thing, that I've really only experienced at Balance, but two, is something that I think is really, in some ways, unique to our progressive scene compared to other scenes in the current state of electronic music.
Exactly.
I think there's some strength in knowing that, yes, our progressive underground scene is just this small corner of this huge thing now that used to not be this huge thing. But now, electronic music is this global juggernaut of it covers everything. But for us still to be able to experience that in 2025 is really special, honestly. And I think it's like, I think everyone talks about like how big the progressive sound was, let's say, at the turn of the millennium. But I'm grateful for where progressive is now because we get the chance to experience it in full. And I get the chance to have a podcast like this where I get to speak to my DJ heroes, face to face, person to person, without this huge difference like artist and interviewer. It's really special. And I think it is something really special about the progressive scene today.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, we can only appreciate to Tom and to crew, to Walter, to head the balls to throw this event, and beside that, now we have another reason to look forward for the next edition, which then finally will be our opportunity to meet each other in real time. Because this time we didn't make it, right? There were so many people, so many faces, and I had no idea. And I was actually literally hiding on the dance floor. I couldn't even bother being in the backstage, listening to all my colleagues. I wanted to feel the music, and I went there with my wife, and we traveled from Brazil. This is where I live these days. And we had the best time. I can say for me, probably the best event of progressive house that I have ever experienced, as I said, because we never really had these kind of things in Germany. And apart from the gigs I play when I travel around the world, but that was such a melting pot of nations, people from all around the world in the right frequency. Everyone was, you just said everyone was on that frequency. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about this move from Germany to Brazil?
Yeah,
because it's like definitely not only different like areas of the world, different cultures, but as you explained, different music cultures as well. Read a lot of articles, a lot of interviews that you did. I think you said you started clubbing when you were 16 in 1992 or 1994.
1992, yes.
Yeah, 1992. What would you like? What was the reason not the reason for leaving Germany, but what have you found in Brazil? because I feel like Argentina is so heavily reported on. I'm actually going to Argentina, which will be my first ever trip to South America, going in 3 weeks. I could not be more excited. But when it comes to Brazil,
In 3 weeks, you're gonna be there for my birthday party
are you going to have a gig there for your birthday party?
on the 28th of November, the day before the We Are Lost festival in Buenos Aires.
Bro, let's go. I'll be there.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the biblioteca is called. Is that place?
Oh my gosh, we got to get synced up for this.
Yeah, we do. No, it's all set already. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Count on me. I count on you, and you count on me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So listen, when I was a kid, when I was 13 years old, my parents decided to escape from a country which doesn't exist anymore, East Germany, communist part of Germany, since Germany was divided for 40 years. And then it was a whole lot of struggle for people living in the east side, in the communist side. So my parents decided to escape. They took us children, my brother and me, and we ended up living after an odyssey of refugee camps and all that shit of losing everything in a city called Düsseldorf. Düsseldorf was already a capital for electronic music. The band Kraftwerk is from Düsseldorf. Nevertheless, so long story short, I have, since I'm 13, I'm always moving. I lost my first home. I wasn't asked by my parents. No one has asked me if I want to do that. So I came to Düsseldorf. I finished school. I made electronic music. Then I moved to another city called Cologne next by. And from there, I've been always moving since then. I came to Argentina I think the first time in 2001 to play. And then since then, I came always back to Argentina. In 2009, I met a girl. I fall in love. We got a child together, my daughter. And this is why I left actually in 2015 Germany to live with my daughter and my ex-wife, the mother of my child, in Argentina. I lived in Buenos Aires for about 2 years. But I was already playing a lot in Brazil. I'm playing in Brazil since 2003, actually. And it became my main market. So if I look at my calendar, like 4 of 8 shows I play once, they are in Brazil, something around that. And then my daughter in Argentina, I fall in love again with another girl from Brazil. Then I moved to Brazil, which was nearby Argentina, not too far from my daughter. And so this is why I found a new home here. Since I've been living in Brazil since 8 years. And I'm always going between Argentina and Brazil. Brazil has a smaller scene for progressive house. There's actually none, apart from the Club Varum, which is going to be closed next year. But I kind of established myself here. When I got here in 2003, there was mostly psytrance music played in rave parties, psytrance festival. But for some reason, people started to book me there to close off a second stage, or maybe to close the main stage with that more trippy, slower sound, which I kind of play, which we call progressive house. But my sound is a little bit more edgy than,
definitely
a little bit more forward, a little bit more clubby, but always some elements that carry on, that make you fly away and to get on a journey. And then people started to book me in those festivals in Brazil, and people start to like that. They got tired of psytrance, and then they called me the king of low BPM.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy because I never thought about calling a genre low BPM, but for them it was so slow, so they called it low BPM.
So it's low BPM psytrance, essentially, is what they classified you as?
Yeah, not a psytrance, but it's low. Psytrance and there's low BPM. Nobody calls it progressive.
That is awesome.
The Brazilians, they always invent some weird names since their English is not like the best. They always call things like low BPM or DP housey, or they have a funny way of saying things. But since then, I got frequently booked in Brazil, and in some point I just said, you know what? Why should I always fly across the ocean, come from Germany, and waste my health in 15 hours flight. So I decided to stay here. I got happy here. I have a nice place to live. It's green, it's tropical, it's always warm, and
Hey, that is awesome, man. I have a few questions about your early clubbing days because when we started this
yeah.
conversation, you said, you can't leave behind your German roots. But my question is, taking you all the way back, but when you can think back to 1992, when I think of what I know about 1992 is it's one of the most important years in club history. At least, so I'm based in Manchester, so I've been studying a lot of the UK club history. Renaissance opens in 1992, and Cream opens in 1992. But I'm interested in the Germany scene. The only point of reference I have was an interview with Paul van Dyk. But can you name some, when you bring yourself back into those memories of you walking into the club for the first time, what are some of the tracks that soundtrack those memories that you can think of off the top of your head?
There's a few that everyone knows. Rip, Mark Spoon, he made a song called Age of Love.
Of course.
I think there was recently a remix by Charlotte de Witt, and like a hard techno remix. But Age of Love, La Esperanza from Sven Väth, Paul van Dyk remix actually, Love Stimulation by You Made. They're considered maybe more like trance music because nobody was ever talking about progressive house in '92. There was only techno. And if it was harder, it was written with 2K. And if it was even harder, it was written with 3K. But nobody came and split things in genres back then. We were all fascinated by this new sound coming from England, from Detroit, from Berlin, from Frankfurt. And that's the thing. Germany was divided in Berlin sound and Frankfurt sound. Gotcha. And the Frankfurt sound, the forehead there was always DJ Sven Väth. And he ran two famous record labels. One was called IQ Records. They have a catalog full of classics. If you go through this, you will get lost and you will discover so many diamonds. And the other label was called Hard House. Right. It was a bit more harder, but it was like Sven Väth. He was like that guy with that club in Frankfurt called The Omen. And that were like maybe the three main tracks that I even play until today. And I actually know that Guy Barone, he made a bootleg of that track, Love Simulation. You will hear at some point. Really great remix he made, and Age of Love everyone knows, and La Esperanza is like that track, man. It's like wow, and so many others,
So if you had to characterize the Frankfurt sound, like with characteristics of that sound, comparing it to the Berlin sound, what was the difference?
Frankfurt sound was more trancey, more ecstatic, and more ecstasy-like. I felt Berlin was suffering the fall of the wall, being lost in a big space like a vacuum. Two countries united, there were no laws, there were no rules. The police had no idea what was going on for many years. People were occupying empty fabrics, warehouses, and throwing parties. But because of the whole thing, things were more edgy, more dirty, more industrial influence. You can see, one of the results is the famous club Berghain. You heard about, it's known for dry, hard, techno, cold, walls, concrete walls. And Frankfurt was always more like with Sven Väth, Mark Spoon, DJ Duck, so many others. There were always had the melodies already, while Berlin had more like the machine sounds, something like that for you to imagine. Yeah.
Well, and then would you say when you made the move over and you said some of that, the aspects of the Frankfurt sound maybe stuck with you? Is that where you get a little bit more of compared to the contemporary, a little bit more of the edge, a little bit more of the energy? a little bit more of the punch.
Yeah, I definitely got more inspired by the Frankfurt sound than from the Berlin sound. Definitely, much more. But what also helped me was when I finished my military service in '95, I think, yes, I got invited to travel to India to a guy that I knew from the record store where we used to buy vinyls. Every week I went to like 2 or 3 days a week to buy the newest imports, the newest records. And there was a guy sitting like every Friday. I think he was sitting there in the corner, long hair, a bit older, and we became friends. And at some point he said, "Why don't you visit me in my house in India, in Goa? You know Goa? GOA?"
Oh
I
yeah.
said, "Well, I'm 18 years old. Should I go to India on my own? My God." Well, anyway, I did. As I told you, I was always on the move. I was always constantly moving, looking for new opportunities. And I arrived in Goa. Goa used to be a Portuguese colony. Within all this British Empire, sort of Hinduism country, continent, basically. But because they were Portuguese, they were Catholic. And that gave them a certain freedom, liberty. In the 60s, when you could still travel by land from Europe to India, those hippies from the 68 movement, 69 movement, they all traveled to India to end up staying in Goa. What did they bring from Europe? The drugs and the music. And that's, hedonism, that's open spirit, hippie, flower, peace, flower, and all that. And the music in Goa developed also with the sound in Europe. When it became more electronic, when the synthesizers came in, the sound, the samplers, they made their own music basically in Goa, which was called Goa trance, psy trance. People were taking acid, dancing half naked in the beach, for 3 days, and and I went there. I arrived there. I was 18 years old. I was already listening the German sound, the sound from the United States, and all my records. And then I got there as 80 years old, and I saw these parties. And I was like, "Oh, what the fuck's going on, man? This is that just blew me away." I mean, if you go to beach and you see people dancing for 3 days, listening the most crazy sound, even more crazy than whatever I heard before, and I brought that back with me. But my problem was that psytrance was too fast for me, 145 BPM ish. So I could not really relate to that. I could not DJ that sound. Also, there were not many records. Those DJs that were playing this kind of sound, they were trading DAT tapes, small tapes. They were playing. You know what is a DAT machine?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, so they could not even properly mix. You could not beat match. You could not change the speed, and it was terrible the way they DJ. But anyway, people were dancing there, and they were going from one day to the other. And I came home, so I need to be better than this. So this is how I kind of went into that sound, always looking for those tracks that took you or could take somebody on the journey, on the trip without being too fast and being able to mix properly, four to the floor, long mixes, beat matching, the whole thing. We were doing this on vinyl, and that was 95, 96, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how timing works? 1994, you go to Goa the same year. Paul Oakenfold releases the Goa mix and kind of brings that Goa sound.
Paul Oakenfold, exactly.
Like brings it international, let's say, because it got broadcasted as an essential mix. And then all of a sudden this sound was like being pushed out there as well.
Yeah, but that was because most of the guys that went to Goa were actually DJs from England.
Gotcha.
Like if you see James Monroe and so many guys, Simon Posford, they're all English producers that got also influenced by the new techno movement. But once they got to Goa, they all got crazy on their trips. Smoking, bongs and all that. And then they came home with all this influence and they made this new sound. And then they got to know Paul Oakenfold. They knew them already. They made this label called Dragonfly.
Oh.
Yeah, I think, and that compilation, I think, was made on Dragonfly by Paul Oakenfold, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. Paul Oakenfold, this Goa mix was my first ever interview. During the pandemic, I was living in LA. Paul, we wanted to interview him about it. He invited us up to his house to do an interview about it. He was so cool, man. So one last question kind of about your roots is what kind of music when you were still in Germany, but before you moved to South America, what kind of music were you playing, even if it didn't necessarily fit in with the German sound? Were you playing more techno trance stuff, or were you doing what you have always been playing and it just wasn't really finding a home there?
Yeah. I never really thought about styles, or I always picked those records that came to me, that spoke to me, and that I liked. By the time I moved or started to play all around the world in 2003, 2004, that was actually a result of starting producing music together with Beckers, with my partner, who had a different project before called Space Safari. He got a bit disappointed because it was the time the vinyl industry kind of fall into thousands of pieces. The distributions, they were closing down. Everybody was losing money, and he was just about to release his third album. And he was like, leave me alone with this music. I don't want to. And I said, but Frankie, his name is Frank. I said, let's give it at least a try. Let's make one track together. If it works, then we decide what we do. So we made one track, released on my label Sprout. That track came out. I swear, since that day, the telephone hasn't stopped ringing. And we started to tour the world, and he was happy, we were happy, and we became, apart from becoming good friends, also studio partners for 21 years now.
It's amazing.
And to answer your question, the sound we were doing was a fusion of what he was liking, because he's a proper musician. He knows how to play piano, bass, guitar. He studied music, actually. And I have no skills in playing instruments. I'm a DJ. But if you put a DJ together with a musician, with that the history of clubbing and all that, the result was what we were doing, what we were still doing, the sound of D-Nox and Beckers. And this is the sound that brought us all around the world, actually.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the history of production duos, especially in this progressive sound, it's like Way Out West. You have that producer, Jody Wissernoff, DJ, Nick Warren combination. Bedrock, Nick Muir, producer, John Digweed, the DJ. It's like a timeless winning combination. I'm really interested in how you decided to start Sprout, because as I said, I find it to be one of the most it's really awesome because it's both unique and consistent labels in our scene. So I'm just curious in how it started.
And you can actually hear that there is still some of that this German influence somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
There, because if you see what people imagine as progressive house is mainly the sound that comes from Argentina these days, right?
Yeah, totally.
And I like that, and I played it also, some of those tracks, but I always like to go a little bit more to the left or to the right. I cannot really hide my past. So Sprout was actually an accident. I was working as an A&R for a German record label in 2000, 2001, 2002. And at some point, my boss, he told me, why don't you start your own label? I mean, you're a DJ, and you've been working with us for 2-3 years now. You basically know how it works. And he had already the name. He said, man, why don't you call that label Sprout? And he had the logo already drawn on the paper. And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to do this. That's it. That was the whole thing. In 2003, we released the first single, vinyl. We were doing vinyls in the beginning until 2005, 2006-ish. And since then, I continue. I mean, I couldn't think of a different life, I mean, my label is me, and I'm the label, and it's all one. And
yeah, it's awesome, man. Now, will next year mark 35 years as a DJ. 2026 will mark 35 years as a DJ. That's wild, man. My question, are you doing anything, do you have anything special scheduled to kind of commemorate that? Or because,
No,
2026 is right around the corner.
yeah. I didn't even think about the fact that it's going to be 35 years. I have just finished my 30 years world tour 3 years ago. We skipped 1 year because we had the pandemic, so we couldn't do the tour in the right year. So we did it in 2023. And last year I was touring 20 years of D-Nox and Beckers. And this year I'm celebrating 50 years of life, another tour. So next year you want me to tour 35 years of D-Nox again. So well, I need to speak to my people.
Yeah. Well, 50 years sounds 50 years of life is good enough. That is awesome. Man.
And remember, we have a date on the 28th of November.
Yes, dude. I am honestly like when you just told me that, I'm like that makes my whole trip. I mean, it's going to be, I didn't even think it could get better because I have We Are Lost that Saturday, the 29th. And then I have Danny Tenaglia and Hernan in Mendoza the next weekend.
The next weekend.
Yeah.
And you have...
yeah. So the first weekend's you now and Guy J. And then the next weekend's DT, who I worked for 2 years. I continue to work for, but I literally was going to his house every day, working with him and his manager, Guy, when I was living at home in New Jersey. He lives in New Jersey too. And then Hernan has been such like a supporter, and just like his support has done so much for my channel. So to be able to see them together the next week in Mendoza, I'm just like, this is like the trip of a lifetime.
Of course, yeah. And you're gonna love the country, the place in Mendoza. Wow, it's summertime. Man, stay as long as you can.
Yeah, I'm like I'm already looking at visas and everything.
You don't want to be in Manchester in December.
Yeah, bro. I walked outside for 2 straight weeks. I love to skateboard. Rain on the ground every single morning. I'm like, I'm over this. Wow. But nah, man, it is just, this has been an awesome interview. If there's anything else to add, I'll let you add it, but I just can't thank you enough for taking the time. And timing is everything, because now I get to go see you down in Buenos Aires. This is going to be insane.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great finish of what you just said, and I'm really looking forward to meet you in Buenos Aires, and hopefully then again in Balance or at Balance Festival 2026. And a shout out to the community of Progressive House. Balance Festival 2026. For those that haven't been, try to go. Is going to change your life.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and I'll see you in a few weeks.